Hey guys, let's talk a Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is the Hunger Games prequel. Now, I really enjoyed this book. I feel like Suzanne Collins improved on her writing style quite a bit. In the Hunger Games trilogy, we were often isolated to Katniss's mind when we would like a more outer perspective on what's going on. This book had that a lot more. Sure, you had things from Coriolanus Snow's perspective, but it wasn't the same type of bogged down or pettiness. I guess you could say there was more of an outer view of the story, as well as having some of his thoughts and about his experiences and things like that. So I thought it was really well done. We get to see Snow's fears and motivations, the types of things that lead him to become the Snow that we know in the Hunger Games trilogy. And I thought this was really well thought out because it's not just a situation of him being good and then becoming bad or something like that. It's actually, there's a lot of gray characters in this book, a lot of wrestling with the human condition and wondering what to do to create a sense of safety and security. And I guess I asked the question of what lengths would you go to ensure your safety and security. And it's a really good question because it shows in this book how sometimes the things we're willing to do to achieve what we perceive to be safe and secure is actually quite monstrous. And so a lot of great characters in this. I would say that almost every character in this book is a great character. But in terms of where it goes, what types of influences were in play, Dr. Gull, the kind of mad scientist, who's kind of prodding the academy that Snow is in to design the Hunger Games. We kind of see her influence and how all that pans out. But yeah, this was a really great read. I enjoyed it. A lot of graphic stuff. Maybe even more so than the Hunger Games trilogy. It's just psychologically, it was a lot more in your face with much of the decisions and things. And I guess the observation is that since the Hunger Games trilogy was isolated to Katniss's perspective, that she didn't have as many decisions, whereas Snow was confronted with decision after decision after decision. So in a way, we can appreciate how Snow as a character is tested in different ways than people from the districts. And I think you walk away with a sense of not seeing necessarily Snow as just a straight villain, but seeing him as a human who had many opportunities to make choices and be tested in ways that other people weren't, to where then he comes out with his own resolve and his own perspective on how to achieve security and safety. That being said, I think we do see this overarching narrative of how not only that power corrupts absolutely, but it's just that power and being in positions of influence, it tests you. And the more you get tested, the more likely you are to crack, the more likely you are to make mistakes. And I think it's easy for us to judge from the sidelines when we see many individuals who do succumb to becoming, I guess you say, the villain. And we don't think of everything that went into that. Granted, I don't look to give passes to villains here. I think it's very important that villains are accountable for what they do. And we certainly don't get a sense of, in the Hunger Games series, that there isn't consequences for behaviors, because certainly there is, and we see it play out, and we see how everyone gets affected. But I think we should just be cautious when we are in positions of power or influence, because that just means we're more likely to become corrupt. We're more likely to make mistakes the more the opportunities are there. And sometimes the only difference between us and the people that become those villains is just that they've been tested in more ways than we have. And it kind of blurs the lines a bit to where maybe it should affect the way we see ourselves and not just necessarily assume that we're always the good guy, because we're not always the good guy. And it's that kind of stuff where I thought this was a really good book. Definitely go read it. It enriches not only the Hunger Games trilogy, but even as a standalone novel, I feel like it was pretty strong. Like, even if you didn't know anything about the Hunger Games, you wouldn't regret reading this book, just because how it all forms and the type of content that's in there. So it was a good read. I enjoyed it. Definitely go check it out. And that's what I got to say about that. Hope you enjoyed my rant.